Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. The Omega Seamaster Professional Planet Ocean collection is the flagship of Omega's Seamaster model families, and in 2016 it was redesigned, taking what was previously the GMT case size of 43.5 millimeters and making it a standard size option in the line, and that's exactly what we have here today. 43.5 millimeters in stainless steel. It's thick like every Planet Ocean is. 16 millimeters, however, is nowhere near as thick as these can get, especially with chronographs. You can wear it under a jacket cuff, just not a sleeve. Now, lug to lug, these watches have never been easier to wear. Across the wrist, it's 48.8 millimeters, and the reason I say they've never been easier to wear is because in 2016, Omega added a new pivoted end link, which means the watch doesn't flare out like it used to when the end links were solid. So it'll pull straight down vertically around your wrist, right out of the lug, which means the lug to lug of 48.8 is actually the span across the wrist. Don't be deceived. Though this is a 43.5 millimeter watch, it's actually narrower across the wrist than a Rolex Daytona on a bracelet with solid end links. The watch does have a spacing between the lugs of 21 millimeters, so it does have a nice modern wide stance that's proportional to the size of the watch. You always want to have a broad bracelet and end link on a broad watch. The bracelet is handsome in that Omega managed to come up with a notion of a 3-link bracelet that didn't simply plagiarize the Rolex Oyster. You can see it doesn't look like the Oyster from the top, and with its oval cross-section links, it doesn't look like the Oyster in profile. Underneath, you can see my baseboard with plenty of daylight showing through. This will ventilate the wrist on a hot day, as well as avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. And Omega probably chose correctly by going with a full satin finish to mute the sheer amount of metal involved. Now you can see there is a little bit of a polished bevel on the clasp, and the clasp machined from the solid gives you an awful lot of quality. First, it's a very substantial clasp. You can see engraved, machined out from a solid hunk. There are screw-fixed removable links. To press the triggers, you must depress them both to open the clasp. It's very secure. The swing arms are machined. You have a push-button slider with 9.6 millimeters of incremental adjustment, but you also have an all-or-nothing fold-out system, so you wind up with darn close to about 45 millimeters of full extension, and it's a wonderful system. You can even use it over a thick winter coat if you're not the type to dive, as I have never been the type to dive, but on my Omega Seamaster, I've often used the extension over coats and sweaters. You can see the case band is simple and familiar. The lyre-shaped lugs with the flaring polished bevels that we've known on Omega Seamasters and Speedmasters since at least the mid-60s, and you can see satin-finished flank. There's actually a polished H and E, reminding you that this is a helium escape valve with a satin finished or blasted center. That's impressive differential finish on a small component. The knurling is deep and sharp, and it's easy to access the helium escape valve if you are that saturation diver, that professional specialist who will need to release helium accumulated during a dive. For everyone else, it's a wonderful conversation piece. But whether you dive or not, you're going to love the bezel. First, because the action is superb. Take a listen. It's sharp, it's precise, it's 120 clicks, and you can place it exactly right over the broad arrow minute hand. Now you can time easily 0 to 60 minutes. I find this is actually more convenient in real life than a chronograph, which usually only features a 30-minute register and can be difficult to read on a subdial. A dive bezel solves that problem. There's a rubber insert for the first 15 minutes. The rest is ceramic, so effectively indelible, with liquid metal or a sort of amorphous non-crystalline metal grain that allows the material to bond to the ceramic so the two can never separate. The dial is of exceptionally hard and high grade. It's basically all the advantages of enamel with none of the vulnerabilities or expense drawbacks. It's made of polished, and I do mean deeply and richly, lustrously polished zirconium oxide, so it's ceramic. On top of that, white gold hands and indices have been arranged, as well as a white gold Omega and Marquee. And so this is a flagship piece. You do get white gold. You have tri-Arabics at 12, 6, and 9. And then you have broad arrow hands, recalling that back in 2005, when the Planet Oceans debuted, they were supposed to be the vintage-inspired Omega Seamaster collection that was long before the Seamaster 300 meters. Now, the system features a time zone function, so you can actually adjust the hour hand independently of the rest and keep excellent time even as you cross forward or backwards across the international date line. You can drive the date in either direction. Pull the crown out all the way. You do have hacking or stop seconds. 600 meters water resistant with the helium escape valve, and that in spite of a handsome and broad display caseback. It doesn't compromise water resistance. Twin mainspring barrels, 60-hour power reserve, automatic winding, a 25,200 vibration per hour beat rate, silicon SA14, anti-magnetic, even amagnetic hairspring. This is part of the Master Chronometer series that are effectively amagnetic to over 1.5 Tesla. The twin mainspring barrels under their bridges, opposite from the balance, allowing a very even torque release, so this watch keeps superb time from maximum wind to minimum wind. It meets all of the ISO 3159 chronometer standards, but it also goes beyond: a 6-position test rather than 5, a fully cased up watch test rather than just a test of a movement, and the watch is tested for water resistance, winding efficiency, anti-magnetism, and power reserve. Full balance bridge and a free-sprung index for shock resistance, and you can see Côte de Genève in arabesque with blackened rather than polished screws. The George Daniels tangential contact tri-level coaxial system to give the watch short-term precision and long-term reductions in maintenance requirements. See this modern marvel and take it for a dive or a drive on the watch box. Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean, differential lume for the minute hand and the bezel so you can easily distinguish. Also, fully lumed seconds hand. Every dive watch should have that.